welcome in the head basketball coach of the Haverford College men, Mike Mucci. Mike began his 20th season on the main line, and the Fords finished 8-16 a year ago and tied for 8th. And Coach, when you look at this year's Haverford squad, the first question I think most observers have is, how do you replace Brett Cohen? You're do everything senior last year. You obviously don't ask someone to step in and replace him, but how do you replace those numbers?
You're right. I mean, it is hard to replace. I mean, he just had a tremendous career and really a great senior year. I think, again, we don't really have size other than a 6'7" freshman right now. So we're kind of playing a little bit faster, a little bit differently than having a true post player. So we're going to have a lot of interchangeable parts and maybe put some people inside that, like a Luke Colombo or a Justin Winkler or somebody like that, to really help fill that area.
As you mentioned, Cohen averaged 15.8 points a game last year. Louis Cipriano averaged a little more than 10. So trying to find replacements for 26 points a game. Let's start with your two returning seniors in the backcourt, Lucas Colombo and Gibby Graves.
Obviously, they're extremely important to our program. I think Luke is going to have a great year. I've continued to tell him that he just gets better and better each year. And from the standpoint of Gibby, I think probably he's one of the more athletic, maybe along with Killing and a couple guys at McDaniel, one of the more athletic players in the conference. So he really needs to have also a great year. Another person that I think will really help from the scoring standpoint is Matt Sherman. He had a great summer and really has gotten much better, and I think he's going to have a great opportunity to help us as well.
Colombo averaging a little more than 9 points a game last year. Sherman 7.5, and Graves the leading assist man with 75 assists. Are there any other upperclassmen that you've seen develop during the offseason and you're hoping for bigger and better things in 2015?
The two players over preseason and into the early start of practice was one, Justin Winkler, and again, he's not Brett Cohen, but I think he can help that position a little bit. The other player that has really made great strides is Anthony Reyes. Again, another guy that could score for us. Again, he's also had a good start to the season at this point as well.
You mentioned one of your freshmen at 6'7", or three other freshmen. Do you see them really making a significant contribution in their first collegiate season?
Probably the one right now would be Walt Plumley from Norfolk Academy. He's a bigger guard. He can score. He can rebound. Again, I think he'll be in the mix, probably, if not a starter, one of the guys coming off the bench right away. Josh, is growing, and I think he'll really help us. But again, I don't know yet how quickly we'll get him in the mix at this point.
Josh Freed is 6'7", 220-pound freshman out of Bethesda, Maryland. When you look, Coach, you've done this, as we mentioned, 2 decades. We've had 3 different champions in the last 3 years. The conference is very competitive, top to bottom. Who do you see as some of the top teams this year?
Well, I think Dickinson has been very consistent the last couple of years. So obviously you have to put them forward since what they've done. I think Hopkins, what they did last year in beating Dickinson, and again their roster is definitely a team to look out for. F&M is always someone to look out for. And I also think McDaniel's gotten better. I think they had a great year and really had a chance at the end to make some noise.
9 all-conference players return in the conference. The Centennial, over the course of recent years, has really had some outstanding talent. Who do you see as some of the best players in the conference outside of Haverford this year?
Well, obviously Wickstead has been a great player. Killing, obviously, with his talent. Hopkins again with Bergerinovich and Hammer are right there. I think, F&M is going to have I'm sure, some size, but some guys have graduated from there that hopefully, that void could get lessened a little bit there. But they're always going to have very good players. So, and McDaniel, like I said, they might not have one standout guy, but they have a pretty strong group right now to work with.
Coach, we'll give you the last word. Anything else you'd like to comment about your team or the upcoming season?
I just would say right now that our team has worked extremely hard. They've been very committed. They're really buying into how we're going to play this year. And, it's going to be a challenge for us, but more importantly, if we defend the way we need to defend, that's going to help us a lot. So we'll do our best to get in the mix and hopefully at some point soon get back into the conference playoffs.
Head coach Mike Mucci of the Haverford College Forge, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Steve. Talk to you later.
Now we welcome in the head coach of the Washington College Shoremen, Rob Nugent. Washington finishing 5-20 a year ago and tied for 8th in the Centennial Conference. But, Coach, when you look at this year's roster, there's a lot of talent that is returning and probably a core group that gained a lot of experience from last season.
We do have the ability to put points on the board. We have a lot of guys that can put the ball in the basket that are returning. We just need to be more consistent defensively, more consistent on the defensive glass, and we certainly, as a unit, need to grind a little harder, a little longer. And I think that we've learned that through the last couple of years. We do have the 4 seniors, and Sean Brooks and Sean Flanagan have done, in the senior group, have done a great job of leading us, and Pat Morgan sort of stepped up in the junior class and become a leader on this team as well.
Let's start with Morgan, a 6'4" junior, leading returning scorer, 12.7 points. I think you could probably say he had a breakthrough year last year, and I'm sure you're looking for big things from Pat in the upcoming season.
We are. Pat had off-season shoulder surgery, and I was a little concerned about how he'd rebound from that, or how quickly. Not that he would, but how quickly he would. And he's done a great job, and he's playing really well, and he's looking better than he did a year ago.
Who else do you see? You have Morgan on the wing. Who do you see working inside, down low, and joining Morgan in the starting 5?
Yeah, we're still looking at that. Sean Flanagan is a possibility there at the 5. Dave Knox. Sean Flanagan's out right now with an injury. We should get him back this week, we hope. Next week, I'm sorry. So right now, Dave's playing. We've got Connor Silhanick, who's also a senior that started to play better last year before he hurt himself, and he should probably see some minutes in there as well. And he's a load in there, and we're excited about his improvement as well.
As you mentioned, a pair of seniors in the backcourt, John Weston and Sean Brooks. Weston averaging just a shade under 10 points a game. Brooks just a shade under 8 points a game. That's got to give you a good feeling, and the coaches have a good feeling to have an experienced backcourt coming back.
Without a doubt. And Brooksy's gotten a lot better. He and John both are gym rats. They work very hard on their game, and they've both been in the weight room. Believe it or not, Sean's a lot stronger than he was a year ago, and he was a pretty strong kid a year ago. And his game has evolved significantly. He's grown as a point guard. Sean came in as a combo guard that was more of a wing, and we've made him a point guard that plays a little bit of the wing for us, and he's done an excellent job. And conversely, John Weston came in as a point guard that could play a little bit of wing, and we sort of converted him to more of a wing that maybe plays a few possessions of point a game. And through that transition, he's done very well also. And like I said, both of them work very, very hard in the gym year-round.
You have a couple other sophomore guards who picked up some valuable experience last year, averaging over 10 minutes a game, and Brian Shapiro and James Drury.
James he came out like most freshmen do, with not a slow start, but a typical freshman start to the year, and really didn't play so great in the middle, and then at the end, man, he was one of the best players we had. He really gets it. Believe it or not, James is an interesting kid and a fun kid, but he really gets the game and what we're trying to do, and knows how to play. And he also has become a very hard worker in the off season here between the freshman and sophomore year. And we expect big things from James Drury, and Brian Shapiro was a guy that we brought in here, and we thought with time would be a very good backup point guard in the Centennial Conference, and we didn't have the opportunity to give him time to make that happen, and we had to kind of throw him out there early, and he played really well. He responded, and he's also another guy. I've been very impressed with the work ethic of this group, and he's another guy that fits right in there that works very hard. He got a lot stronger. He was, a freshman that came in like most freshmen, 5'11" guards do, maybe a little undersized in terms of strength, and he worked very hard on the offseason to get stronger, which was a key factor for him getting better and giving us even more quality minutes this year.
6 freshmen dot this year's Shoreman roster. Do you see any making significant strides and contributing significant minutes this season?
Joey Shelton from Church Farm is I think, going to be a heck of a player in this league, and he still is a freshman. He's got a wealth of talent, and that shows in practice. But he also makes freshman mistakes, and you get not frustrated, but a little, because he's so talented. You see that promise, and he's going to get there, but he's going to be an impact, and he's a 6'4" wing, and he's a wide body. He's got a lot of flexibility. He can do a lot of different things, and Taz Dixon out of Harriton High School is a really good athlete, a very good point guard, and has shown very well here in the preseason. Well, in our practices now, prior to starting the games this season, and he also has a pretty good basketball IQ, and we think Peter Ciaccio, a young man from Connecticut, a 6'7" big man, has a lot of promise. He's a little raw right now, but he definitely has a lot of promise. He's got to get a little bit stronger and get a little bit more confidence about him. But he could be a factor here down the stretch, or certainly in the future.
You have some new assistant coaches, and certainly one name jumps out at us is Kevin Breslin, a 2012 graduate of the college. And what does he bring to the program as someone who has played 4 years at Washington College and in the Centennial Conference?
Kevin Breslin he brings a ton. Obviously, he's one of the better players I've ever had. He is a very, very smart basketball guy, and in addition to that, a very smart person in general. He certainly brings a knowledge of what we do and the way we want to do things, and a good buy-in factor, and a different way to communicate to the guys. He played here for 4 years. And I happen to be fortunate to be his head coach, and that gives him, along with his basketball IQ, gives him a platform with our players that not many assistants have right away. He's great, and he's a hard worker. Tremendous. A lot of times your best players sometimes. What's the old saying in the NBA? If you're a Hall of Famer, you're probably not a very good NBA head coach. Well, Kevin Breslin is someday going to be a Washington College Hall of Famer, and eventually, if he chooses to be, will be a very good head coach, and he's an outstanding assistant, even though he's early in his career here in his first year.
When you look across the landscape of the conference, who do you think will be the top teams in the Centennial this season?
The league is a bear. As I look through the teams and sort of gannered at the rosters yesterday just to check up, because I know you probably asked about some guys that on other teams that are doing well, and in my old feeble age I forget things, so I wanted to check rosters out and make sure I didn't forget some guys. But you're looking at that, and obviously Hopkins, who ended up winning the conference tournament, returned most of their guys. I think they're going to be really good, but Dickinson's going to be right there, knocking on the door, and potentially still the team to beat. They lost Honig, but they still returned, and Landy, but they still return a lot of guys, and Allen does a great job there at Dickinson. I think they're going to be really good as well, and Gettysburg is phenomenal. They've done a great job with recruiting classes over the last 3 years, and they're young, but a lot of freshmen and sophomores I think will see time. But they also have Sean Gordon, who's one of the toughest players in the league, and I think they're going to be really good. And Scott does a great job at Muhlenberg, and he has great talent in Malik Killing and Alex Devetsky, and sophomore Hunter, I think, John Hunter, is going to be a heck of a post player as well, and they've got a lot of pieces. Landry's done an excellent job at Swarthmore, and again, they've got some very good recruits. McDaniel. I mean, Kevin Curley is one of the best coaches in the country, and he's got most of his guys returning. And I believe Nick Martin's returning after injury last year for a fifth year, and he's a really good player. I could go on. Mike Mucci is also one of the best coaches in the league and in the country. And he had a lot lost to graduation, but he's a wizard over there. So you never know what he's going to pull out of his hat to make them competitive. You just know that he's going to make them competitive. So it's a fun league to play in. There's a lot of great coaches. There's a lot of great players. This is my 14th year in the league, and I think it's one of the strongest conference slates from top to bottom. And I didn't even mention Glenn Robinson, who's the all-time winningest coach in Division III history and has always done an outstanding job at F&M. And they have a very, very good freshman class. And with Morgan Lee and Cedric Moon returning, they may drop a little bit in the preseason poll because it's done on who you lost and who returns. But they'll be right there in the end, without a doubt.
We'll give you the final word. Anything else you want to share with us about your team and the upcoming season?
We're excited. We look forward to the season. I think everybody's excited this time of year. No one's played a game that counted yet, and we're looking forward to it. As I mentioned, the league is a bear in terms of the quality teams and coaches, but that also, in addition to making it highly stressful, makes it extremely fun and competitive. And we're really looking forward to the season. And we think we got some guys who can put the ball in the basket. We're just hoping we can be a little bit more consistent on defense and on the board specifically, and we trust each other a little bit more than we have in the past.
Washington College head coach Rob Nugent, thanks for your time today. Best of luck this season.
Thanks, Steve. Good luck to everybody.
Now we welcome in Swarthmore College men's basketball coach Landry Kosmowski. The Garnet 8-17 a year ago and 7th place in the Centennial Conference. And Coach, if you could give us just a brief overview of how the early preseason has gone. Have the players done what you would hope they had done in the off season? Have you been able to put in the packages that you would hope to at this point?
I don't think any coach is happy with the packages they've been able to put in after a week and a half of practice. But in terms of our team, definitely pleased. We've had great upper class leadership. I think the two most pleasant surprises have been upper class leadership from guys. Carl Barkley's senior, 2-year captain now. Our juniors, Shane Leffler, Brandon Patton, Sean Thaxter have been great about stepping up in practice, and our sophomores have as well. We have 5 sophomores, and now that they know more about our system, they've been doing a great job of teaching each other. And put that together with the talent in our freshman class, and we're definitely very pleased.
3 starters are back for your squad, and let's talk a little bit about Barkley. The senior guard averaged a little over 9.5 a game, and one of the top marksmen, 3-point shooters in the conference. What does he mean for your offense from a perimeter standpoint?
Well, he's our most experienced shooter. Obviously had a good couple years shooting beyond the 3-point line. We've talked a lot with him, and he knows himself about just kind of putting a whole season together. We've asked a lot of him. He's had to play a lot of minutes, and I think both years at different times for different reasons kind of hit the wall a little bit. So I think as a senior, having that experience and learning from it, I think he's going to be a lot more consistent this year and really see the season all the way through. I think that's what he's most excited about.
Sophomore Sam Liebrick saw action in all 25 games, gained 14 starts a year ago, averaging just a shade under 5 points a game and a shade under 2 assists per game. You look to him to be the point guard, and who else might we see in the backcourt?
I think Sam will play some point. We want to get him back to playing more wing because he shoots the ball so well. But it really just it's going to go. We'll decide that game by game. But he's been a lot more assertive this year, which we need out of him. Been doing a great job, like I mentioned before, teaching the younger guys what we do and how we do things, and he's had a great preseason so far.
Up front, you welcome back your leading scorer from a year ago, sophomore Chris Bourne, 11.8 points, 5.5 rebounds, shot nearly 58% from the floor. They've always said the biggest change between freshman and sophomore year, so you've got to be excited for Chris heading into 2015.
I checked in with Chris this preseason just to see how his focus is, how his excitement level is about the season, and he's always been extremely ready to go. And he's prepared himself accordingly. And, just the little I've seen of him so far, I think his example in terms of how he takes care of himself, both on and off the court, how he stretches and warms up, I mean, everything. He is I would say consummate professional, but he's obviously not a professional. But he takes it seriously and acts like it means a lot to him. And it's a great example for our whole team, especially our younger classes.
Who do you see as among the upperclassmen as someone who might be able to step up and contribute even more significantly this season?
About upper class, is that the juniors and seniors?
Sophomores, juniors.
Sophomores. Our sophomore class has been especially impressive so far in preseason. They got a lot of experience last year. And as I mentioned before, they're doing a great job of holding each other accountable and teaching the freshmen all the stuff they learned last year. So guys like Luke McCartan, Tom Wilmots, Mike Rubio, and Chris and Sam, who we mentioned before, they've been extremely impressive, and there hasn't been a sophomore slump for those guys at all. If anything, they're more prepared and hungrier than they were last year.
6 freshmen on the roster for the Garnet this season. Any that have really surprised you during the preseason with their play?
I know you're not going to like this answer, but they've all surprised me. Really, really good class. I mean, again, being freshmen, they have a lot to learn, and they're picking things up quickly. But in terms of focus and effort and attitude, they've been great. I mean, all 6 of them have done a tremendous job.
One of the things that we see throughout the conference is the parity from top to bottom. What do you think it's going to take for Swarthmore to make the Final 5 and qualify for the conference playoffs this season?
I think we were talking about it as a coaching staff the other day, and I think the 2 things we need to that are going to be important for us is how our upperclassmen continue to lead throughout the season, and if they do a good job. And the second piece of that is how quickly our freshmen pick things up, because we think we're going to get quite a bit of support from that class. So, how quickly they pick things up and get comfortable is going to dictate, where we end up being at the end of the year in the conference standings.
Who are some of the teams you think will contend for the conference title this year?
I think, Dickinson obviously has had 2 good years in a row, and they lost a good class, but they still have Wickstead back, and they have some good older players that have gotten a lot of experience, Elite 8 experience, and Al does a great job with them. I think Hopkins going in is going to be a favorite because of their the 2 seniors they have. And really just their whole upper class. I mean, they have a lot of good older players, and Coach Nelson does a tremendous job. So I think those 2 teams, along with Franklin Marshall, who's always up there, and a few others, are going to be contending just like last year. I'm sure it's going to go down to the last day.
Now you're in your 3rd year at Swarthmore and gotten the lay of the land in the Centennial as it is. Anything surprise you about the conference that maybe you didn't expect when you joined us a couple years ago?
I heard it coming in. I'm really surprised at how really everyone, all the coaches, I know at least on the men's side, I'm sure on the women's side as well, are really into fair play. I mean, no one wants to take advantage of scheduling or times. I mean, everyone really wants to help each other out. It's a real collaborative, collegial environment, which has been great for me to see as a younger coach about how to interact with the rest of the conference. I know it's not that way in every conference.
When you'd like to give the coaches the last word, anything else you want to share with us about the team in the upcoming season?
We're very excited. I think we have a lot of youth, but I think it's going to be a lot like last year. We are going to compete and play hard, and as I mentioned before, I think we have great upper class leadership, and I hope that shows when we get on the court, especially when we start conference games.
Swarthmore College head basketball coach Landry Kosmowski, thanks for joining us today. Best of luck this season.
Thanks, Steve.
Now we welcome in the head basketball coach of the Ursinus College Bears, Kevin Small. Coach beginning his 15th season in Collegeville, 6-19 a year ago, and tied for 8th place in the conference. And Coach, one of the first things that jumps out at us this year when we look at the preseason roster is there are no seniors on this year's roster. I guess from a teaching standpoint that can be good, but for an early season standpoint that can also be a detriment. Talk about the preseason so far.
Well, historically, when you have no seniors, you're putting a positive spin on something, Steve. There are no positives when you don't have seniors. If there was a BCS in Division III, the Centennial men's basketball would be in it. And, you want to have juniors and seniors. And obviously we're shallow in that for a lot of different reasons. But we're going to fight through that and do the best we can.
Well, then you take a look at the junior class, and a name that jumps off at you is 6'3" junior Malik Draper, the 2013 Centennial Rookie of the Year, averaged 10.4 points a game. That's got to be a good place to start, though.
Sure. Malik's working just as hard as all the other guys on our roster. One of the neat things about Malik is he's a health and exercise physiology major, and he's doing really, really well. He wants to go be a physician's assistant, and we're really proud of how Malik's kind of dug in and balanced what is being a college athlete with all the best ideals of Division III, which is he's a genuine, true student athlete.
You also have another member of the junior class, and Mark Wonderlane, averaged just under 5 points, just under 4 rebounds a game, and we think you might be looking for him as a swing player on the inside and the outside.
There's no doubt that Mark is kind of the heart and soul of our basketball family here at Ursinus. Unfortunately, we're going to be without Mark this year. Mark tore his ACL 5 minutes into our first drill, so we're going to have to overcome some of that, the loss. Not only was Mark enormously experienced, having played plenty of minutes as freshman, but also one of our emotional leaders. So he's not off the hook there because he's going to still have to really be one of our stronger, more pronounced leaders within our basketball family, but we probably won't have his help on the court.
So certainly now you have to look to some of the returning players, some of the upperclassmen who maybe didn't see as much of a role this last year, but you're going to need for the upcoming season.
Well, the God's honest truth, as you looked at the roster, you're talking about older guys. We just don't have any. There are no seniors on our roster. We have one junior eligible to compete, and that's Malik because Mark's now hurt. We just don't have a lot of older guys. 10 of our 12 are freshmen and sophomores. The good news for us, Steve, is we have a group that's been really committed to the work part of things. I can't tell you how big a deal over the years our better teams have really thrived just having fun together in the gym working. And this group, at least thus far through, a handful of training sessions, we're training really hard.
One of the things that was a hallmark of Ursinus teams over the past 4 years is you kind of turn the reins of the offense over to Jesse Krasna, who has graduated. Who do you see taking it, not necessarily taking over for Krasna, but who can you see running in the bareback court this season?
Obviously Krasna's a huge loss for a lot of different reasons. You're right, he's kind of quarterbacked both ends of the court for us. Remarkable young man, graduated summa cum laude. He's teaching and coaching, following his own passion. So it's hard to say, hey, we're just going to have somebody step in and replace Kraz. But we do have, in 6 freshmen and 4 sophomores, along with Malik, we've got a lot of candidates that are going to try to rise to the occasion of, as a group, learning how to execute at a high level.
One of the hallmarks of the conference over the past few years has been its balance. We've had 3 different champions over the last 3 years. Who do you see as being the top teams in the conference in 2015?
It's funny because we all do the same thing, Steve, just like you, and we're all looking around the country looking at really great Division III basketball teams and trying to figure out who's better than whom. And we inducted Dennis Dadden into the Ursinus Hall of Fame last Saturday night, and I had 20 of my young guys back, and they're all asking the same question you just asked me, and I told them the exact same answer I'm going to give you, which is I don't know. I think that there's 9 other Centennial teams that I think are all really good. I have the benefit of a new full-time assistant, Keith Hack, and he's trying to get to know our conference. And I've had him watching film from last year, and he's just, shoot, these teams are all really good. And I said, that's what I've been trying to tell you. So I don't think we could pick 1 or 2. I do know that we play 18 games, and I can't imagine any of them being easy. That's a great testament to the Centennial and just how good the coaching is, the teaching, but also kind of the talent pool of young men that are on our rosters. I just think every time we go out, we're going to have a real tough test.
Talking about the talent level, are there any players in the conference that cause the coaching staff a little extra anxiety when you have to look at a game plan, how to defend them, and who might some contenders for Conference Player of the Year be outside of the Bears?
You know, it's funny because we don't really go at it worrying about a certain personnel. We go at it worrying about the coach. We've got 9 other coaches that are really, really good. So for us as a staff, we're trying to prepare for a certain team, and we never really are adjusting to work on a certain personnel or a guy who last year was in the first team All-League. I think all those coaches, as well as those players, would tell you that's a function of place in the league. Not our first team All-Leaguers are generally the better players on better teams, and so for us, we really work on making sure we're preparing to compete at a high enough level in February to make a run at postseason play. We're never really worried about who are the better players.
Coach, we'll give you the last word. Anything else you want to share about the team and the upcoming season?
Well, just how excited I am. You know, it's been a little while since we've been this young. In fact, I've never faced a roster, even when I first got here 15 years ago and it was a little bit of chaos. I've never faced a roster with quite this much youth, and I'm really invigorated. It's been an awful lot of fun to have a group as special as this only a couple weeks in who just work really hard and are committed to the work part.
Coach Kevin Small, the Ursinus College Bears, thanks for joining us today.
You bet, Steve. See you now.
Now we welcome in Gettysburg head men's basketball coach George Petrie. Coach, welcome. Beginning your 25th season at the battlefield. Longevity seems to be one of the hallmarks of conference coaches when it comes to men's basketball. You guys find a job, you do it well, and you stay for a while. So we're glad to have you back. Bullets finishing 12-13 a year ago and tied in 6th place in the conference, just missing out on the conference playoffs. Coach, 4 starters coming back, including 2 outstanding freshmen, Cody Kiefer and Tanner Kirkpatrick. Kiefer averaging 12.6 points a game last year, Conference Rookie of the Year. Kirkpatrick averaging a little over 11 a game. Talk about what they brought to the program last year, their off-season development, and what you hope for from that duo this year.
Well, we're really excited about those 2 players. Both of them are pretty mature players, very skilled, they have a strong basketball background. So I think the transition for them last year was rather smooth, and we look forward to them being even more consistent and stepping up this year. Of course, Cody can play out in the perimeter, and Tanner has the ability to play on the perimeter and inside. So they're very versatile players, and now with the whole freshman year experience, they should come back, and we're looking forward to them to playing more like upperclassmen than sophomores.
When you look at your backcourt, you have a couple of returnees. Talk about their differences as guards and how they take some of the pressure off Kiefer and Kirkpatrick.
Well, the one guard who we missed greatly was Sean Gordon, because Sean brings a lot of energy, a lot of experience to the program, and the kids play off of him. And basically, he missed a whole year of basketball. And when he came back last year, he was coming back off an injury, had an additional injury, and so the rust was really there most of the season. But when he got towards the end of the season, he was playing extremely well, and he's having an extremely good preseason so far with the short time that we practice. The other player we're looking forward, who ended the season strong last year, was Peter Christ, and we're looking forward to him stepping up. Songo has a lot of experience. That adds to the nucleus of the backcourt, which gives us a lot of strength there. Songo's a pretty good ball handler, pretty good defensive player. He can draw a lot of attention, distribute the ball. So we have some nice combinations there in the backcourt.
Malo averaged 10.1 points a game last year. Gordon 8.6 and led the team with 4.2 assists per game. In addition to Chris, you have 3 or 4 other players who averaged double figures in minutes last year. Do you see anyone stepping up and being even a greater contributor in 2015?
Well, right now, it looks like the freshmen are going to have an impact in a couple places. Joe Emirasabi has times been pretty good off the bench, but he's also battling injuries. He has a tendency to have an injury which keeps him from getting the consistency that we want. Our other sophomore, Melanjan Reeves, gained a lot of experience last year, and at times showed that he too could be a factor out there. Now, whether he can become a consistent player for us remains to be seen. We're taking a long look at the freshmen we have coming in because a couple of those kids are starting to show what they can do. Vitor Mello and Cameron Stewart are doing very well in the preseason, as is Alex Gaslender and Matty England. So, we'll see where that goes here in the next couple of weeks as we get into the early season.
When you look across the Centennial landscape, Franklin Marshall has always been a traditional power. Dickinson winning the championship 2 years ago. Hopkins stepping up last year and capturing the conference championship. What do you see shaping up in 2015 in the Centennial Conference?
I think it's going to be pretty tight. I think that everyone's gotten better from top to bottom. The team that plays with the most consistency is going to end up on top. Those teams that have experience coming back is a big plus. And, you just have to show up every night and play. I mean, every little thing counts, from foul shooting to your shooting percentage to, players staying healthy, no one getting sick, injured, or not be there. I think it's going to be hotly contested.
Who do you think are some of the top players outside of the Bullets in the conference this year?
Well, I wish Wickstead would graduate. I wish Hammer would graduate. I think Bourne's going to be a good player. Morgan, Sherman, Stavetsky, and then there's others that are going to surprise you that maybe didn't get the time or had, an off year, and they're going to come back and surprise you. So you just have to be prepared every night.
What do you think it's going to take for Gettysburg to return to the conference playoffs this winter?
Well, we think we have a good shot at that. We're going to have to mature because, we have 8 freshmen and 4 sophomores. That's more than half your team. That's not a lot of experience, but there's some skill and there's some understanding, and I think that if they mature as we go through the season, we have a good opportunity to be there.
We'll give you the last word. Anything else that you'd like to share with the folks about the upcoming season?
No, we just plan to stay healthy and have players step up. One of the players I failed to mention was Kevin Gladstone. Had a real good finish to the end of last season, playing very well in the preseason right now, and we hope that continues too. So, we'd like to stay healthy, be consistent, have the guys be there all year long.
A team that's always in the hunt. Come February, the Gettysburg College Bullets head coach George Petrie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Steve.
Now we welcome in the head coach of the Green Terror men's basketball team, Kevin Curley. McDaniel, 18-10 a year ago, 4th in the regular season, a trip to the Centennial semifinals. And, Coach, the first thing that jumps out at you when you look at the McDaniel College roster this year is a lot of experience coming back. And as a coach, that's got to be a very comforting feeling knowing that they're already pretty comfortable with the system as you get ready to start the season.
Sure. No, obviously it is a good feeling. We do have 13 returners and all of our guards return. And it's kind of unique. The last couple of years we've been a young basketball team with a lot of freshmen and sophomores. And now this year we actually, we have 2 seniors, actually a graduate student, and then we have a big junior class. So it certainly makes practice a lot easier here from the get-go.
Let's start in the backcourt. You had 3 official starters returning, and Phil Perry, Wesley Brooks, and Dwayne Eccles. Perry, the leading returning scorer, 8.9 points. Brooks, the leading 3-point shooter, also averaged a little more than 8. And Eccles averaging just a shade under 6 in his rookie season. Talk about the 3 of them and how they differ on the court.
Sure. No, I mean, one of the things that was unique about our team last year is actually we didn't have a guy that averaged double figures. We had like 9 guys that averaged 5 or more points per game, and all those guys you just mentioned were a big part of that. Obviously, Phil Perry returning, he's very athletic, he can drive, can get to the basket, does a very good job of creating for others as well. Then you have Andrew Merlot. He'll be returning. He was an honorable mention all-conference player last year, too, that can really shoot the basketball. Has had a lot of game experience. It's hit some big shots for us. And then also I know you mentioned Wes Brooks. Wes Brooks, came in last year, was our starting point guard, does a very good job, has a high IQ, can score, and also gets us into our offense and takes care of the basketball. Good, solid player, also honorable mention all-conference last year, along with Phil and Andrew. And then also, I know you mentioned Dwayne Eccles. Dwayne, since he's been here as a freshman, he's an energy guy, defender, can rebound, can drive to the basket, and just, does all the little things that we ask for here at McDaniel.
Nick Martin only saw action in 6 games before his season was cut short. He's returning. How is he going to factor in with the backcourt rotation?
Oh, certainly. He's going to have an impact. And that's actually one of the tough things right now in terms of our preseason preparation is we do have a lot of returners, and we have a lot of competition right now. Nick Martin's a very good player, a very confident kid. He can score the basketball. And then we have other guys like Cam Royster that played a lot for us last year, came off the bench, was a big spark. So, the tough thing right now is trying to determine, who's going to be our starting 5 and who's going to come off the bench. And the nice thing about this group is we do have an unselfish group of guys. And really, I don't think any of those guys are actually concerned about that. I think they're just ready to play, and hopefully that'll make us better. And, because we'd like to play 9 or 10 guys, and we want to make sure that we're playing hard with a lot of energy out there on the court.
Well, you have a lot of athletes on the roster. I guess the one true big man or the forward would be junior Tim Stewart, who also averaged 8 points a game last year.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the things, one of the concerns are about a basketball team this year. Obviously last year we had Evan Pupelis and Jimmy Cranwell. They were both seniors, and they are tough, hard-nosed kids, physical, knew how to play. So, who's going to be able to step in inside for us? That's going to be a question mark. Obviously Tim Stewart had a very good year last year for us. He can play on the perimeter and he can play inside. Then we have some other guys that we're looking for to see how they do in terms of like Jack Rocket and Anthony Morgan. And, unfortunately right now, Nick Yaki, who played some minutes for us last year, is dealing with a shoulder issue. And then we have another player that I think is a tough kid, competes, plays hard, Kevin Rosari, but he's actually a member of our football team right now too, and is a dual sport athlete. So, inside is going to be a little bit of a question mark for us here, as we get started. But, our guys are working hard, and we're going to have to play with a lot of energy and use our athleticism as our strength.
4 freshmen are on the roster this year. Do you see any of them really giving you significant minutes in their first collegiate season, given the experience you have coming back?
Well, that's, one of the tough things as we get older. Obviously when the freshmen come in, it's all brand new for them, the pace of college basketball, the intensity, and also it's all brand new information. For the returners, they've been doing it for the last 2 or 3 years, so they have a much better understanding. And, we have 4 freshmen right now. They're working hard. They're good guys. They're doing what we ask, and, we're going to need them at some point during the course of the year. I mean, guys step up, whether it's now or later. Then also 2 other guys I want to mention as sophomores. We've got Nick Perugino, who can really shoot the basketball, and then also Timmy Tanui. Both those guys gave us sparks at different times last year.
I look at your roster, and I also see 2 familiar names as assistant coaches, Jimmy Cranwell and Tyler Rudd. Does that help, the fact that you have 2 guys who have played for you and have experience playing the Centennial Conference? Does that rub off on the team at all?
I do. I think so. I mean, obviously, both those guys, Tyler was an all-conference player his senior year and extremely hard worker. And same with Jimmy Cranwell. He was an extremely hard worker, intelligent kid, and both those guys were captains and leaders of some of these guys when they played. And I think it's great because they're able to relate with the guys. They see things that maybe I don't, and they can give me a better understanding of what our guys are thinking, so we can make adjustments. And then our players respect them as players because they work so hard, and they were team players and did very well here at McDaniel. Plus, it makes it easy on me. I don't have to teach them anything.
When you look at the conference landscape this year, who do you see as the top contenders for the title, in addition to yourselves?
Well, I tell you what, this conference year in, year out is extremely competitive, as you know. I mean, there's been years where you can have 8 or 9 different teams in the playoffs, and even all 10. So, Obviously you would think Dickinson coming back. I know they return a bunch of guys. They're big. With Jerry Wickstead coming back and that crew, they're going to be tough. Johns Hopkins had a very good year last year. Won the tournament, and I don't really think they lost anybody. So I think they're going to be tough as well. Muhlenberg's always talented. Gettysburg's good. I mean, every team is well coached. I mean, there's not one team in this conference that doesn't know what they're doing and is not going to compete on it every single night. So I mean, it's a battle every night.
What do you think it's going to take for the Green Terror to make that next step, get to the championship game, and maybe hoist a trophy at the end of the season?
Well, I mean, we want to do, and is just kind of take it. You probably hear this one day at a time here, and try to get better every day. I mean, try to improve from last night's practice and get better tomorrow, and a lot of things have to fall into place. Obviously, we want to have a group of guys that are going to go out there and play together as a team and compete every night and play hard and leave it all on the line. We've got an extremely deep conference, and we can't wait to tip off the season for another year here, and just want to wish everybody the best of luck.
Hey, Coach Kevin Curley of the McDaniel College Green Terror, thanks for joining us. Best wishes for a successful season.
All right, thank you, Steve.
Now we welcome in Muhlenberg men's basketball coach Scott McClary. Mules 16-10 a year ago, and 5th place in the Centennial regular season. And Coach, when you look at this year's edition of the Mules, I think the first name that jumps off of the roster is certainly senior point guard Malik Killing, 21.7 points a game last year, second team all-conference, one of the more dynamic players in the Centennial. What do you hope for from Malik in his senior season?
Yeah, obviously we're blessed with a tremendous athlete and a tremendous talent in scoring the basketball. I believe he's led the conference in scoring the last 2 years. We've built a lot of what we do on offense around his talents. He's got a unique combination of speed, ball handling, and a nice touch to be able to put that together. So I think we expect from Malik what we've expected each year that he's returned to our program is just look at some of the areas that we've identified that he has to get better to make our team get better, and see some strides in those areas. We want to see him make a larger impact on the defensive side of the basketball, particularly off the ball and accountability there. And we want to see him grow into being a leader with so many young guys of what he can do and bring intangibles, not just what he's doing with the ball in his hands.
One of the people that he found when he wasn't putting the ball in the basket, he averaged nearly 4 assists a game, was 6'4" junior Alex Stavetsky, an honorable mention all-conference guard. Averaged 13 points a game, shot nearly 40% from long range, making 53s a year ago. Talk about his off-season development and his role coming into the new season.
Yeah, and Alex, again, is another very talented offensive player. Like Malik, he comes from the Philadelphia area and played in a high school that was at a very high level. Malik at Friends Central and Alec, of course, at Archbishop Carroll High School. So they both hit the ground kind of ready to compete at a high level. Again, we saw a lot of that in their production numbers. What I look forward to with Alec is now that he's a junior and he's got 2 years under his belt, he's really done a good job this summer developing in his body. He now looks like an upperclassman instead of just a very skilled underclassman. He looks a lot stronger, and he's ready also, like I said with Malik, he's ready to shoulder some of that leadership responsibility with how many young guys we have in the program right now.
2 freshmen that really stepped up and contributed last year, 6'1" guard John Schreer, 46% from beyond the arc, and 6'9" center John Hunter. Let's talk about the Johns here, and let's talk about Schreer first and his role moving forward, and Hunter being the force in the middle now with the graduation of Kevin Hargrove.
Yeah, and we're expecting a lot from both of those guys. We were very excited to be fortunate enough to get them here at Muhlenberg. And last year as freshmen, they did have an important role for us, but both of them were sitting behind a senior last year. Schreer was sitting behind Austin Curry, who was a 4-year starter for us, and John Hunter was sitting behind Kevin Hargrove, who was also a 4-year starter for us. So I think it kind of holds the rest of the league back from seeing what the 2 Johns are ready to give. But I do think for their development, it was very good for them to sit behind those guys and have to spend the whole year practicing behind those 2 seniors. So we're very hopeful that they're ready to take on a very large responsibility for us this year, and we're very hopeful that they can get off a great start as being part of our nucleus for the next 3 years. We're very excited about those 2 guys.
Another perhaps diamond in the rough, someone who flew under the radar, was 6'4" Brandon LaRose, who transferred in mid-year. His role entering the new season.
Yeah, and we have two players kind of in our returning that were mid-year transfers. Brandon LaRose, as you mentioned, was a mid-year transfer last year, and Nick Molosky was a mid-year transfer the year before that. And then, of course, last year as a sophomore, Molosky had a knee injury, so he missed the second half of the year. So in both of their cases, both Molosky and LaRose, they're trying to take on their first full year in our program, and those are guys, again, with such a big graduating class last year. Those are guys we're expecting to step up and take major roles. I think that in LaRose's case, some of the league saw a taste of that at the stretch run. He's very athletic. He's also very strong. He's had a great offseason. We're hoping he can be right there in the mix of everything that we do. And in Molosky's case, the first step is he's got to get back and really be 100% healthy. So far, he's had a very good 3 weeks of practice, so we're excited about his health, and now he can develop into a pretty important role player for us.
As you mentioned, a large senior class has graduated and moved on. You brought in 8 freshmen on this year's roster. Any that you see making a significant contribution early on?
Yeah, well, I think just based on numbers, a lot of them are going to have to make a contribution. We just hope it's a positive one. We obviously graduated 4 seniors. All 4 of them played, so that we knew this had to be a large class, and we also knew that some of them were going to have to they're going to have to play as freshmen. And I just think right now, the way those guys are approaching the season, the way they're bonding together and with the rest of the team, I couldn't be more excited. I think we're going to have to bring a lot of patience to the year, because when you're going to play freshmen, it takes some time for them, as talented as they may or may not be, to adjust to the college game, especially in a league like ours, which has several teams that are junior and senior laden. They're going to be put to the fire early, and I'm confident their talent can rise to the occasion. It's just a matter of how fast that's going to happen. So day by day.
We talk about parity often in the Centennial Conference, 3 different champions in the last 3 years. How do you see the conference shaping up this season?
Yeah, again, I'm sure every coach is speaking to this. I think there's great competition in our conference. I think you have schools like, obviously, Dickinson most recently has made a great run in the NCAA. Hopkins, of course, won our tournament and brings an awful lot back. I don't slight the players that they graduated, but they do bring an awful lot back. Franklin and Marshall, it never matters what they graduate. They're always bringing talent in, and they have very good players returning that have experience too, as well. And I think some of the other, Gettysburg was very young the last year, and now they're going to mature a little bit. I know Swarthmore has put together some very good recruiting classes back to back. Ursinus always has a lot of very talented offensive players, and you got schools like Washington, Haverford, whether it's their style, their location, they're very difficult to play against. McDaniel's been a school that's popped into the playoffs here the last couple of years. So I don't care what night it is, when you're playing against anyone in our conference, you better bring your A game or they're going to get you. And it's a very competitive game. Fun to approach it that way. There's no question about it. But it does present a challenge.
We'll give you the last word. Anything else you want to tell us about the team or the upcoming season?
I think we're excited to get started. As everybody is, you can't wait to get practice started. Then after a couple of weeks, you're tired of beating on each other and you want to get games started. So I look forward to. I think the Centennial, and my expectations, should do a great job competing in their non-conference games, and then it won't be long before we get into the conference wars. I look forward to seeing everybody and seeing those other teams and how they developed. How those players developed in the offseason. It should be a great year in Centennial basketball. Head
coach Scott McClary of the Uhlenberg College Mules, thanks for joining us today. Best wishes for a successful 2015.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it.
Welcome in the head coach of the Franklin Marshall Diplomats, Glenn Robinson. Coach Robinson, the winningest coach in Division III history, as he closing in on 900 victories. Franklin Marshall 17-9 a year ago, finished tied for second in the conference and reached the conference semifinals. Coach, give us a brief little overview of how the preseason has gone in the first 10 days, or is your team where you thought they would be at this point?
Well, we had one of the worst practices in my 47 years of coaching yesterday, so it's a terrible time for this interview. But overall, the preseason's been going quite well. We were able to take a trip to Costa Rica, and while the basketball part was nothing like the U.S. college game, and so you can't extract much from it. the experience was good, and the team camaraderie and all of the things that we saw together were just fantastic. So you add that on to the practices, and it's been a good preseason.
Let's take a look at this year's roster, and one of the first names that jumps off at you is 6'7" junior Cedric Moon, 9.4 points, 9.6 rebounds per game. And I think to most observers, you would say he improved each game last year. Talk about his development during the offseason and your hopes for Cedric heading into the new season.
Well, Cedric is one of those players that when you teach him something, it's locked in there permanently. We had a number of instances where we showed him something new in practice on a Thursday or a Friday, and he used it in the game on Saturday. So he just doesn't forget anything that you teach him, and so he does develop rapidly. He was very inexperienced starting out, so he had a long way to go as far as his knowledge was concerned. But he really impacts the game, particularly on the defensive end. He alters a lot of shots, blocks a lot of others, and then gets a lot of defensive rebounds. So his impact on the game is probably more important on the defensive end, but is ever increasing on the offensive end as well.
One of the other starters returning, and one of the more athletic players in the league, is senior Morgan Lee, 8.5 points per game. What do you hope for Morgan in the upcoming season?
Well, the big thing about Morgan is he's so versatile. He plays a number of different positions for us, which with the team we have right now is very helpful. Right now he's recovering from a mild concussion and going through all the protocols, so he's missed practice the last couple of days. We do feel he's going to be fine. It's his first incident ever, and it was even questionable whether it was truly a concussion or not. But he has missed practice, so he hasn't been around the last couple of days to play, only observe. He has been extremely good at going to the basket. He's very good at driving, drawing fouls, finishing inside. And his knowledge of the game has always been good. He has a great feel for the game, doesn't seem to get rattled at the end of close situations. And so we're looking for a lot of help from him, particularly in game situations and particularly near the end of games.
Among the other returnees, do you see anyone stepping up and gaining significant minutes in the front court along with Monet and Lee?
Well, Sean Hines right now appears to be our most improved player. He's really learned the offense, and it's the thing you notice most is when he's in the game, the offense seems to flow more smoothly. And obviously we want him to be able to score more, but he's really helping the other people score and hitting the offensive boards and doing things of that nature. So I would say right now he's a big one that has improved a lot. Devin Figueroa, very knowledgeable about the game of basketball, one of our best passers, and also one of our best open shooters.
Jared Wright also saw some time, average over 10 minutes a game. Do you see him working into the guard rotation?
Oh, yeah. I left him out because he started last year and didn't think he was someone new to talk about. But, yeah, Jared's very talented, really gets the ball up the floor quickly, thinks well under pressure. I thought he was the MVP of our game against Hopkins in the playoffs last year. I thought he just did everything right, saw things that need to be seen, and got our team in position to do what they were supposed to do almost every time up the floor. So he's picked up where he left off. I think his defensive pressure is even better than it was last year.
This has to be one of the more unique years for you in your tenure, Franklin and Marshall. 1 senior, but 7 freshmen. What kind of contribution are you hoping for from the class of 2018?
Well, as of yesterday's practice, we had 4 freshmen starting. That was an oddball day, but that's how crazy it can be. We do have some good freshmen. They have a lot of individual talent. Right now, trying to put it all together has been quite a task. And consistency is always the thing that you strive for, and it's completely missing. They look great one day or even one 5-minute stretch and then absolutely awful the next. And so we have a lot to do in the next week and a half.
When you look at the conference over the last 20 years, I think one word comes to mind is parity. When you look at this season, who do you think are the top teams in the conference?
Well, you know, we haven't seen everybody's freshmen. In many cases, we don't even know what freshmen they have. A lot of the rosters are just starting to go up online, and we really haven't had a lot of time to check them out anyway. So it's all going to be based on what's returning and what they had last year. So you have to start with Johns Hopkins. They have, I think, a predictable starting five because they have a lot back, and then the ones that are replacing graduates, you already know who they are. So I think they're going to be very, very tough. They're always well coached, and they have size at every position and a lot of talent. I think beyond that, Dickinson, you know, they won the regular season last year, and they lose a tremendous player in Adam Honig, but they have a lot back. They have a lot of size, and I think they have a lot of flexibility, so they're going to be difficult. It just seems like as you go around, nobody talks about McDaniel, but they're tough as heck, and they play really well on the defensive end. They have a lot of flexibility on the offensive end. Great compliment it is they're a pain in the neck to play. They're hard to guard, and they come after you. And then Gettysburg, you know, they started 2 freshmen last year, and those kids are really talented players. So I think they're going to have a great year.
When you talk about a roster that has 7 freshmen on it, does it help to bring in someone who has played in the conference and knows your system? Jeremiah Henry, certainly a new assistant coach. We always like to talk about conference graduates and moving on. Having someone who's played at Franklin and Marshall and played in the conference, does that help the assimilation with a freshman?
Any experience helps. I would prefer to suit Jeremiah up and have him out there shooting threes, but failing to be able to do that, he has been a tremendous help. You know, he's not a new college graduate. He's been coaching at the collegiate level for 17 years, so he's really been around the block. He knows coaching. He knows how to teach, and he's been absolutely great to have on our staff. Wish I could have done it 5 years ago, but he's really doing a great job.
We'll give you the last word, Coach. Anything else you'd like to say about your team in the upcoming season?
Well, as always, I think our conference is one of the most difficult in the country, and even though I picked out 4 teams to name in order, you know, anybody could do it. I think our coaching is absolutely terrific in our league. I think everybody is improving, and there's not a single, particularly away game, that you can go in saying, well, this is going to be a W. So I think it's a real credit to our coaches and to the players in the Centennial Conference, and I'm just looking forward to a heck of a battle.
Head coach Glenn Robinson, the winningest men's basketball coach in Division III history. Thanks for joining us today, and best of luck this season.
Thanks, Steve. My pleasure.
Now we welcome in Johns Hopkins men's basketball coach Bill Nelson. Nelson, his team won the conference championship last year, defeating Dickinson in the title game, advancing to the NCAAs and finishing with a 17-11 record. And, Coach, must have been a dream season in some respects to close the way you did, to win the conference championship. Is there any residuals that came from last year that you've seen during the off-season and the preseason to get ready for this year?
Not really. I mean, this was a typical preseason. Guys came back pumped up. They had a good preseason workout with our strength and conditioning coach. And, you know, like everybody else, we're kind of chomping at the bit. We're scrimmaging tonight, Thursday night, and looking forward to playing against somebody else besides ourselves.
When you look at the roster, first name that jumps out at you is first-team all-conference guard Jimmy Hammer, a senior, averaged 13.8 points a game last year, one of the top sharpshooters in the conference. Talk about his development over the past 3 years and during the offseason, what you hope for from Jimmy in the upcoming year.
I'll tell you where Jimmy's developed more than any place else is his defense. He's really done a good job and worked hard at the defensive end of the floor. And, you know, when you're having a good but not a great season and then get hot at the end, there's a few factors that come into play, and one of them was, you know, some of our, quite a few of our players really buying into our defensive philosophy that our new assistant coach, Jeff Aikens, put in during the year.
Another returning all-conference player, 6'5" senior forward George Bugarinovich, second-team All-Centennial. always to me as one of the hardest working players on the floor. 12.4 points, a little more than 6.5 rebounds a game. Talk about George and what he brings to you both on the offensive and defensive end of the floor.
Well, you mentioned it, hard work. He's the shortest post player we have, but he plays the biggest, and he sets a great example for the other players. If you don't play hard when George is out there, he's gonna beat you. I'm not just talking about it in conference games. I'm talking about it in practice also. George is tireless, and he's been on one of the all-conference teams for 3 straight years, I think. And he's focused this year, and he never has a bad practice. George is one of the rare guys that never takes time off.
Another player you have to watch for with Hopkins is 6'4" junior Gene Williams. About the times that defenses start worrying about Jimmy Hammer and his long-range shooting ability, Gene Williams will hit a big three. And talk about his play.
Well, Gene, I mentioned different reasons why you might finish strong at the end of the year, and it's when the light comes on for a few players, often sophomore year, and about midway through the season, Gene, all of a sudden gained his confidence, and there were times he carried us when they were concentrating on George and Jimmy.
Now, you graduated, your point guard, and Daniel Corbett. Who are you turning the keys to the offense over this year?
Austin Faciliitis, he's had an excellent preseason. He did play a lot last year. Daniel was banged up, and statistically, Daniel played about 22 minutes a game, and Austin played the other 18. So he's a veteran, even though he's only a junior and hasn't started yet. But we're very comfortable with Austin.
One of the things that struck me last year with the Hopkins run at the end of the year was the quality depth you had in the front court. Who do you see stepping up and joining Bugarinovich up front?
The depth really helped. I think the other factor for finishing strong was we were as healthy as we were all year at the end, and that was really important. And then the depth. We had a nice sophomore class last year, and I remember I think it was the F&M game, George got in a lot of trouble. Guys like Matt Phillips and Matt Chisano came in, and we held on until George was able to get back in the game.
One of the hallmarks of Hopkins basketball throughout your tenure has been defense. And what do you teach the newcomers that get them ready to play Hopkins defense?
It's interesting. I mean, Bob McCone was an assistant for 25 years, and I gave Bob, and now I give Jeff Akins pretty much complete control of the defense, mostly man-to-man. They know what I think, but they teach it in 2 different ways, and it took a little while to for the guys to catch on last year, and tell you the truth, we had to reteach it all again this fall because once the season's over, everybody goes back to their old defensive habits, and those habits weren't the habits we were hoping to, keep. But I think they're rounding into shape now defensively.
You've seen a lot through your tenure as basketball coach at Hopkins, but one of the things I'm sure you'll agree with is the parity that the Centennial Conference has. Who do you see as some of the top teams heading into this winter?
Same old characters, F&M and Dickinson. I did my voting, and the 2 teams that I think don't get enough credit, or I thought played very well last year, were I think will move up the ladder, are Gettysburg and McDaniel. McDaniel, 18 wins. They got to the Final Four, and Gettysburg beat us twice. They've got tremendous talent in their freshman or their sophomore class, and I heard they got a good freshman class. So I think those 2 teams are really going to be effective this year.
Let's take a look at some of the top players around the conference outside of your own team, and certain players that give the coaching staff give pause when it comes time doing scouting reports and players you may find yourself game planning against.
Well, Jerry Wixton, you got to start with him, and Killings. They're the 2 guys that kind of stand out and have had excellent careers as they go into their senior year. I think that there's when you talk about McDaniel, they've got 3, 4, or 5 guys that all kind of blend in together, and it's very difficult to scheme against them as far as man-to-man goes. Who do you help on? Who do you leave? Things like that. So I think they have an excellent group of kids. Pat Morgan at Washington College, the Sherman kid at Haverford, kind of unheralded, as I mentioned about earlier, are excellent players. And F&M's got Moon coming back, and I think Phelps. So you can go on and on. Stavetsky. The conference is loaded with some excellent players.
We'd like to give the coach the last word. Anything else you'd like to share about your team in the upcoming season?
No, I'm anxious to get going with this team because it's a big year for us. Every year, no matter what you did the year before, every year is a new year. You search for that identity that's going to try to help you out. We have 10 juniors and seniors, so if we're ever going to make a move, this is the year for us.
Head coach Bill Nelson of the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays, best of luck this season. Thanks for joining us today. Now we welcome in the head coach of the Dickinson College men's basketball team, Al Soretti. The Red Devils 24-7 a year ago and making a run to the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament. And Coach, first of all, any kind of residual effects from last year's deep run in the NCAA? Any carryover during the off-season, weight training, preseason that as you've seen during the first couple of days of the preseason this year?
It's hard to say tangibly if the effects carry over. Obviously, you have a feel for what that level is like, and guys envision where we want to go as a group. And while each year starts over anew, with the players that return and played a significant role, that's now their expectation. So that's a good thing because the expectation level has risen. The challenge there is that you didn't just arrive in March last year and end up in Illinois. There's a long process that gets you to that point, and sometimes making sure we realize that process has to restart from scratch is the biggest challenge. So we've had a very productive fall. We've had great leadership. Our returning guys have done an outstanding job of pushing towards what they now perceive to be the end goal. But again, we're in the beginning stages of that process, and sometimes guys want to speed that forward.
I know at least 9 conference coaches sent graduation cards to Adam Honig last year, the 2014 Centennial Conference Player of the Year, who has moved on. And I think they'll probably be looking to send similar cards to Jerry Wickstead. 15 points a game, 7 rebounds a game a year ago, preseason first team All-America. Talk about Jerry and how his game, if it can, has improved during the offseason.
I think it's improved every year. I think he's become a lot more efficient. I think the intangibles for Jerry individually have improved. His freshman year, he would just produce numbers, didn't really know how he was going to do that. But day in and day out, he produced. His sophomore year, he had a great deal more attention placed on him. So that was had a great year, but that was a bit of a struggle. And then last year, he became very dependable night in and night out, regardless of what defenses we saw and how he was approached. This year, I think obviously he's going to get a ton of attention with Adam being gone as a primary scorer. I think Jerry's more than prepared for that, not only from a skill set. He's improved his game facing the basket. He's more comfortable off the dribble. He's very efficient and very poised in how he goes about getting his numbers. But I think his leadership is really improved. He was always a great teammate, but I think now he's a lot more conscious of giving off that positive vibe to his teammates, even in games where maybe he's catching attention and it's really a struggle for him. He's done a great job of continuing to be productive as a leader in those type of situations. So we expect a big year for him. I think everyone would see that coming. Again, his numbers have been outstanding for all 3 years, but I think he's going to take a step forward with the efficiency and again in the leadership category.
Another one of your senior big men returning, Steve Collins, 6.4 points a game, started 30 of 31 games a year ago. And at 6'9", similar to Wickstead, here's somebody that can play inside and outside.
Yeah, it doesn't get the attention that he deserves. One of our hardest workers, one of our best communicators, kind of a linchpin for us defensively, one of our best shooters at 6'10". I know when you're a casual basketball fan or old-timer sees him out there from 25 feet shooting threes, they want to look down at us on the coaching staff and wonder why. Get the big guy inside, but he's very productive and efficient from out there. We expect another great year from Steve, and I think people forget last year was his first full healthy season. And now he's gone through that. That's where I think a big growth spurt will occur for him, knowing what a full year is like having avoided injury last year.
You have a junior swingman in Ted Hinnekamp, who I can imagine lineup as a 3. Anybody else that you have seen during the preseason that might step up and see significant minutes in the front court?
Yeah, I mean, Teddy's like a 3-4, and again, huge growth year for him. One of our more talented guys, literally growth year for him. I think he's up to about 6'7" now. Came in at about 6'5", so we expect a lot from him. Front court guys, as we commented on last year, we essentially, if we have 16 guys on our roster, probably 15 are more versatile backcourt kind of wings, even Jerry and Steve. Rob Picca is a sophomore, he's 6'11". He's shown great growth. We don't know if he's going to be ready this year, but if he is, that would be obviously a big boost to that front court.
Well, let's take a look in the backcourt, and you return one of the top shooters in the conference in junior, Brendan Ingrati, 9.2 points a game, making 62 3-pointers during the year. Talk about what that type of sharpshooter means in your backcourt and that kind of experience as well.
Yeah, huge year for Brandon as well. Obviously, he was more of a complimentary scorer his first couple years because of Adam and Jerry. Now he's going to have that opportunity and that freedom and that aggressiveness to seek his own shot a little bit more, which I think will benefit him. What goes hand in hand with that is defenses will also have the focus on him a little bit more as well. So that's going to be a challenge throughout the course of the season, but we expect him to do a great job. Pete Yanks returns as a senior with the opportunity to step into some of the minutes that Adam Honig left us with. That's the challenge for anyone that's been a point guard on our roster the last 3 years. There weren't many there. Adam was playing 30, 32 minutes. So those guys, while being a part of practice and being a huge part of our team, haven't had the opportunity to show others maybe what they're capable of. So we expect Pete to step in there. And then we have another junior, Zach Dwan, who's a second year with us. He's about 6'6". He can step out and shoot it. We have 2 sophomores, Brian Lissack and Brian Earhart, who are in the backcourt, who are 2 of our most improved players and really competitive thus far in the fall. And then certainly, our 6 newcomers. We have 1 senior that's joining us, Brandon Goldson, and then 5 freshmen. So all those guys have been very competitive in practice, and right now we're really unsure what direction our rotation will even go because of the competitiveness of practice.
When you look across the landscape of the conference, one word seems to come to mind: parity. 3 different teams have won the conference championship over the last 3 years. Who do you see as the top contenders in the conference this season?
Well, I think you're exactly right, and I think, as you know, and as probably you're going to get with 9 other coaches on here, you're not going to get a straight answer there because I think there is such parity that it could go in a lot of different directions. People would point to Johns Hopkins with the returning players, and they are the returning champion. So obviously the bullseye would be on them. I think Gettysburg returns a lot of young talent, has a great sophomore, junior class, and good senior leadership, and they're happy about some of their freshmen, as they should be. McDaniel returns most of its talent from last year and the great year they had with Coach Curley. They have front court guys graduated, but their backcourt is excellent. And then obviously you have the usual suspects with Franklin Marshall and Ursinus. I expect them to take an uptick again. As long as Malik Killing is in uniform, Uhlenberg is going to be a threat. And then certainly you have the others, Washington and Swarthmore and Haverford, and all those guys do a tremendous job, and those teams play hard. And I think, to your point, the one thing that we've left out, and we learned last year in our run at the end, was how good the league is. And we did some research, and 8 different occasions in the last 10 years we've had a team go to the Elite 8, and 3 different teams have gone to the Final Four, and we've won a first-round tournament game for almost going on 10 years now. So whereas nationally, because of the parity, people might not look to our league, I would doubt anyone else in the Mid-Atlantic region would have those kind of results at a national level. So it's going to be a difficult league. It's going to be a challenge, but whoever comes out of it's going to have a chance to do some things at the national level.
I think we're going to cut and print that last comment. That was perfect. We'll give you the last word, Coach. Any other things you want to mention about your team in the upcoming season?
No, we just appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and the work that you and Jessica are doing to set this up. We're excited about the year. We think it's going to be a great year for the league. I think a lot of teams had some good young players last year. We'd like to be included in that, and we think it's going to be a really competitive year. We hope to be a part of that competitiveness throughout the course of the season.
Head coach of the Dickinson College Red Devils, Alan Soretti, thanks for joining us today. Best of luck this season.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
This is probably how competitive it is. From top to bottom, everybody's very good, and you're bound to have a good game every night.
Just every game's competitive. You never know From the bottom to the top, you can win or lose.
Just the sheer competitiveness of the conference itself. Having 2 tournament teams last year, and some of the teams that didn't get in. F&M is always a tough team. McDaniel's a real tough team to play. All the way down to the teams at the bottom. It's no easy games. You can't really take any days off.
The competition every night when we play different teams in the conference. There's no night off. Every team we play is pretty tough. I like how good the guards are in the league, how good the bigs are. I think it's really fun every night knowing that I'm going to go compete against really talented players.
I listen to the same music and just stretch the same way, do the same stretches and all that.
I drink a lot of water the day before a game, the day of a game, stay hydrated, try and eat a banana or 2 before a game also so I don't cramp. But other than that, I don't really have a ritual or a superstition.
I have like a certain playlist that I listen to before a game.
I have a little bit of a ritual that I do when we have our team warm-ups that we do every game. I always dribble up the middle of the court with my right hand, just pound as hard as I can, go behind my back 5 times, then come back with my left hand. And when I get to where the ball racks are, it's a little bit weird, but I always hit the ball against my head 5 times just to kind of like get me going.
Kobe Bryant or anyone on the Knicks.
Well, I'm from Wilmington, which is like close to Philadelphia, so like Allen Iverson was awesome like growing up.
I would have to say growing up I admired watching Allen Iverson play, just the tenacity and toughness he brought to every game.
Really, for the past couple years, it's been Aaron Craft. Love the way he leads his team and then gets after on defense. And then in the NBA, I don't love the NBA as much as I love the college game. I'm a Davidson guy, so I go to Steph Curry. He is such a great shooter. His form is perfect, and it's just always fun to watch.
Kobe Bryant has always been kind of an inspiration for me, and really, it's a given. Michael Jordan, I really respect the dedication and confidence that they both exhibited in their own games, and just the work ethic idea is really important to me.
Is Stephen Curry, ever really since his days at Davidson, just someone to look up to. Try to model my game after him a little bit as a shooter myself too.
Probably Steph Curry. Steph Curry is very dynamic. He's able to shoot very well and also be able to handle the ball, and he's just very hard to guard.
Jesus Christmas.
Coach Kosmowski on the court and in the film room, he always has his practice plan folded up, and he tucks it into his waistband. And I don't know if it's when he's thinking or what, but he'll always pull it out, fold it a couple times, look at it, and then tuck it back in the waistband. It's always the same thing, though. We give him such a hard time.
Like in meetings, so we'll have like one-on-one meetings and stuff like that with like all the players, and then he'd just be sitting at his desk and he's like this with his leg crossed and these huge big eyes and just staring at you the entire meeting.
The used word in our practices is defense, so that has always been a very important contributing factor to the style of play at Franklin and Marshall, and really that's what our team is centered around, is getting the stop defensively, then working towards offense.
Coach Nelson always is big on no distractions. So he tells us not to have any distractions outside of the game, and whenever we come to practice, make sure we aren't distracted on anything.
I think Dickinson is one of the tougher gyms to play in the conference because they always bring a pretty hardy student section, but I think that's also outside of our own gym because it's been said that Major is one of the more difficult gyms to play in, so we really thrive in our environment, but I think Dickinson is one of the more competitive gyms to play in.
Toughest gym to play in is probably Franklin and Marshall. They always usually have a bunch of locals there, and the gym is usually packed, so it's pretty loud whenever we play. And we've only been able to win last year, so hopefully we can win this year as well.
Atmosphere-wise, I think I have to say F&M, just because there's always a lot of people there. But the gym itself, I think Washington College gym, definitely the toughest one to play in. The fans are all right on top of you, and it seems like a small gym. It might not be smaller physically, but just the gym itself seems more like close together, and it plays to their advantage a lot, and it's really hard to win there.
I think they all are personally, but I would have to go with Washington College. There's something about it. It's a small, dark, tight gym, and it just feels like 100 degrees in there every time.
Dickinson has a really good chance of winning the title this year. They bring back Wickstead, who's really good, talented big guy, a lot of talented and athletic wings. I think it's going to be tough for them to replace Adam, but I think they have a really talented team and have a good chance. Their coach always has them ready to play. So I think they're one of the top teams in the conference, actually.
Well, Hopkins won it last year, and they have like a good core coming back. Like they didn't really lose anybody off that championship team. But I would say Hopkins. You could say Dickinson too, but they did lose like Honig and Tucker Landy, two good players. But like the favorites probably have to be Hopkins going in.
Not including us, probably Dickinson because they were very successful last year. They ended up going to the Elite Eight, and I know they're returning a lot of people, so they'll be tough to beat.
I think Dickinson has the best shot to win the conference, just from sheer returnees and from what they did last year. Great run to the Elite Eight, I believe, and they don't rank teams in the top 25 preseason for nothing. So they have a lot of talent back, and their experience level is right up there with the top of the conference.
I don't really think I could answer that, to be honest. The conference, you really never know. There's always the teams that stand out right away, like Hopkins and Dickinson, but I think all around, you can't predict it. It's impossible to predict who can win this.
I think based on last year's performance, Dickinson and Hopkins have to be considered up there, but our conference is pretty unpredictable. I think McDaniel proved that when you get a team that gets on a roll or starts playing well, basically, they can make a push for the playoffs. So.
Based on last year's results and the returning players, I think both Dickinson and Johns Hopkins are going to be strong contenders this season. But the way that the Centennial always shapes up, it could be anyone's game. It's a very competitive league.